Hey, what's up, stock compounders? Brad here. So today I want to share some news about Seritage Growth Properties. It has been a big week for Seritage. I'm sure many of you have seen, it started, a handful of days ago. It was at around $15. Today it topped out near $22. That is a huge move for Seritage. So I just want to share kind of some updates about Seritage that I'm looking at. I want to talk about Guy Spier's talk through Manual of Ideas, the Best Ideas Conference that happened just last week. I want to talk about the short squeeze that we've all been watching with GameStop and how that might be impacting Seritage. And I also want to talk about the latest press release from Seritage on kind of the 2020 update for the company. So let's jump into this. First of all, if you guys haven't heard Guy Spier's talk yet through Manual of Ideas, John was kind enough to make this open to the public. Okay, normally you need to be a member of MOI in order to listen to these talks, but you can find it open to the public if you go to John's Twitter account or Manual of Ideas Twitter account, and you can find the link to Guy Spier's talk. And it is fantastic. He really got into some details in terms of his investment thesis for Seritage. And my biggest takeaway from that talk is really that Guy sees only a handful of companies being responsible for the vast majority of the investment thesis here. A handful of companies, 95% of kind of the investment case for this company. So, and that makes total sense to me. I don't know why I didn't see that earlier. There's a lot of people who are looking at how quickly Seritage is selling off their properties to kind of cover the operating expenses, to cover redevelopment costs, thinking, this company's going to run out of properties soon if it keeps selling at this rate. But it makes total sense to me that all along, they've really only had their eyes on a handful of properties to develop in some of these prime locations. And in a future video, I'm actually going to break down this handful of properties and come up with, what I think these things could be worth in 5 or 10 years, what kind of net operating income they could be generating. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be an exciting one to make. So definitely check out this talk from Guy Spier, open to the public. Let's look at what the stock has done. Like I said, the last 5 days. This thing was sub $15 on Thursday, the 21st. Here we are on the 27th, less than a week later. And like I said, today it topped out $21.90. And you can see this pop here. That's a crazy pop for Seritage. So what is a short squeeze? Like I said, I'm sure you guys have been following GameStop, at least to some extent. It's been all over the news. So the big thing with GameStop is that there was such a high short interest on that company. It was actually over 100% of the shares outstanding. And so the issue with that is when the stock price starts to go up, these investors who have sold the company short start to get calls saying, hey, you've got to, redeem, you got to close out your short position because, we don't have enough collateral to continue to keep this open for you. So they're forced to buy shares at whatever price the stock is to close out those short positions. And if there's a high short interest on a company, that can really squeeze the price because all at once, all of these investors who have sold short are forced to close those positions out. So that's what we've been seeing with GameStop. And, with Seritage Growth Properties, there is actually a pretty large short interest in this company. So there's a couple sites I look at to gauge short interest. The first here is highshortinterest.com. Very straightforward. I love how simple that name is. So if you scroll down here, you can see Seritage Growth Properties is on the list, just shy of 40% short interest. So, among the top in terms of most heavily shorted public companies in the US. So another source, Morningstar. If you go to the quote page, which is kind of the first page you hit when you enter a ticker symbol, it'll show you this quote info, but then you can click short interest, okay? You can see the shares short as of January 15th. So I think probably in 2 days from now, they're going to come out with updated numbers. That will be interesting to see. But I think it's only updated every 2 weeks with the shares short. You can see the float, which are typically shares that are owned by investors other than investors that are very close to the company. And this gives some idea of how many shares are kind of actively sloshing around the market for this company. So when you take the shares short divided by the float, you get a pretty good sense of, how strong is the short interest in this company. 60%, nearly 60% is quite high. So there is a pretty heavy short interest in Seritage, which, provides a case to be made that there could be a short squeeze with this company, especially given that it's got a fairly small market cap, at least compared to other companies that we've seen short squeezes with recently. GameStop, I think, was under $1 billion, so similar size to Seritage. But AMC, I believe, we're seeing a short squeeze with them. I believe they were significantly larger than either Seritage or GameStop. So, just something interesting I've been digging into based on what's been happening with GameStop and this Wall Street bets, and it's just everywhere. A fascinating case study for investors on, first of all, to obey Monish Pabrai's one of his 10 commandments: "Thou shalt not short." Okay, we're just seeing the shorts get slaughtered in GameStop, and it's a great reminder: don't sell short, because the upside to downside kind of probabilities are not skewed in your favor, usually, if you're shorting. I mean, you've got to be one of the best in the world at shorting in order to do this in a kind of a low risk way. For most people, shorting it's a terrible idea. Maybe you buy some put options, right? Or do some more advanced option strategy that protect your downside. That's definitely a possibility. But selling naked short, it is just brutal, guys. In order to finish this game, we've got to stay in the game. So don't do that. But the question is, do I think there's a short squeeze involved? There could be. I don't really know how to tease that out of the numbers. I was looking at Thinkorswim today, looking at some of the volume on Seritage Growth Properties. And you can see here there was a peak, December 10th. So this is when Benjamin Shaw announced that he was leaving the company as CEO. So you can see there was a peak in volume, and clearly it was a peak down, right? There were a lot of people who wanted to get out, okay? So that's what that peak was. Now, you see, I think this is just yesterday here. It might be today. I don't know how to read these that well yet, but look at this. 3.5 million was the volume for, just the last 24 hours or so. And you can see the average looks like it's under 500,000. So incredible spike in volume for Seritage. And you can see it was definitely an upward volume move, based on the price going from about $18.50 at the start of the day to a high of, looks like, nearly 23. A little different figures here than what we saw just with that Google search. But anyway, guys, I'm just kind of digging into this, geeking out a little bit. Let's see how to close this. So yeah, that's what's been happening on the short squeeze side. I do believe there's been a short squeeze that has impacted this, but you know, also a big talk released from Guy Spier. A lot of people are in Seritage because of the super investors who are also pretty heavily invested in the company. Guy Spier being one of them, and we've got this 2020 update, right? So if we go to Investor Relations on the Seritage homepage, we can scroll down Press Releases. Seritage Growth Properties provides 2020 update. So this was from 1/26, okay? So, you know, and it was early in the morning on 1/26. So, you know, that could have been somewhat responsible for this peak, this press release. But let's take a look at what it says. It was quite positive, I think. So essentially, collected 91% of rental revenue, okay, in the fourth quarter of 2020. That's pretty good. It's definitely been on an upward trend since the pandemic started. You see here 145 million of gross proceeds through monetization activity. I like that, monetization activity. That's the phrase they're using when they're talking about selling assets, selling properties. So that's what they've generated. Looks like in the fourth quarter from selling properties. You get the cash on hand, blah blah blah. So this just goes through, you know, the leases, leasing activity, Q4. The whole year of 2020. You know, nothing too interesting to me in there. So Transform Holdco terminated the 5 remaining leases related to wholly owned properties owned by Seritage effective March 21st, March 2021. Okay, so the company will no longer have any exposure to Sears or Kmart, right? So that's done. That saga is over, which is great. It means Seritage is free to either sell those assets or, you know, really start the redevelopment process on those properties. Let's see. So let's go down here. Right, you see the monetization activity, selling properties. So in 2020, 15 properties and 15 outparcels were sold to generate 417 million of gross proceeds. And then you've got development activity. Now, this is the one I was really looking for, CEO transition update. As the company previously disclosed on December 10th, we saw, you know, the stock really took a dip then. There was a lot of selling. Benjamin Shaw notified the company of his resignation from the company. And his departure date was January 22nd. So that was 5 days ago, right? Benjamin Shaw is no longer with the company. The Board of Trustees remains focused on its search for a CEO candidate to succeed Mr. Shaw. The Board of Trustees has engaged a national search firm to assist in the search process and is actively evaluating several internal and external candidates. The Board of Trustees expects to announce the company's new CEO in the coming weeks. There is and there can be no assurance about timing and certainty of any such appointment. So they're saying they expect to announce a new CEO in the coming weeks, but there's no guarantees. That's basically what they're saying. So, okay, that'll be interesting. I'm very curious to see who they appoint as CEO. We don't really have any hints here, but it's good to know that is probably coming in the next couple of weeks. So anyway, guys, that was the update from yesterday, the press release from Seritage Growth Properties. Nice to see that rental income going up. And again, I am excited to dive into these handful of properties that are really going to be kind of the cornerstone properties for Seritage over the next, 5 to 10 years. I wish I had known that a couple months ago when I valued each one of the properties using a commercial real estate service. It would have saved me a lot of work. I think I valued I got comps for 180 properties or something. So this is going to be much easier to kind of nail down kind of these top 5 and really dig deeper on each one to get a sense for, what's the potential here with these premier properties. So anyway, guys, just wanted to give you that whirlwind of an update. Again, check out the talk from Guy Spier. Let me know in the comments what your big takeaways are from that talk. Again, it was just a fantastic talk, and I'm very grateful that Guy and John have made that available to the public. And then in terms of short squeeze, let me know what you think in terms of Seritage. Maybe you guys, some of you I'm sure know how to kind of look for clues in trading activity for a short squeeze much better than I do. So I'm just wanting to educate myself on what that looks like when that's happening. It's a very interesting phenomena, and who knows, we may be seeing more of it as stimulus checks, as unemployment checks get sent out more and more as we have this new president in office who seems more inclined to do more of that. So we'll see what happens. All right, guys, that's all I have for this evening. I will see you all in the next video. Take care.